In the vast cosmos of human experience, there are concepts that act like dark matter, unseen, yet exerting a powerful gravitational pull on our culture and our fears. They both frighten and fascinate us, precisely because they seem to operate outside the known laws of human connection. They live in the shadows of our understanding, lurking at the edge of our collective consciousness. And among the most potent of these concepts are two words: psychopath and sociopath. We hear them whispered in hushed tones on true crime podcasts and shouted from movie screens in the guise of charismatic, monstrous villains. Through decades of media portrayal, these terms have been flattened, distorted. They have become cultural shorthand for pure, unadulterated evil, simple, convenient labels we apply to acts of cruelty so profound they seem to defy our very definition of humanity. We imagine a monster, a creature wholly separate from ourselves. But what do these words truly mean, beyond the caricature? What happens when we look past the fictional monsters and into the clinical reality? The truth is infinitely more complex, and for that reason, far more interesting. It requires us to move beyond folklore and into the realms of psychology and neuroscience. This is a journey to peel back the thick layers of myth and misunderstanding that have accumulated over centuries. It's an attempt to replace fear with knowledge. It is a quest to understand the intricate mechanics of the human mind, including its most troubling and dangerous variations. For centuries, philosophers, priests, and judges have asked the same fundamental question. Why do some individuals commit acts of profound cruelty, not in a moment of passion, but with a chilling lack of remorse? The modern search for answers has moved into the laboratory. We now know that clues lie deep within our biology, in the unique wiring of the brain, particularly in regions that govern fear and empathy, like the amygdala and prefrontal cortex. But they also lie in our life stories, in the environment that shapes us, and in the deep-seated patterns of behavior learned and solidified over time. To truly understand the distinction between a psychopath and a sociopath is to confront a difficult facet of the human condition. The popular image of the wild-eyed, axe-wielding maniac is a comforting fiction. It allows us to believe we could spot them a mile away. The reality is far more unsettling. Individuals with these traits often walk among us, completely unnoticed, hidden behind a carefully constructed veneer of normalcy. They are not all violent criminals destined for prison. In fact, many find great success in society. They can be found in high-stakes professions, in corporate boardrooms, in the political arena, even in operating theaters, places where a cool head, a tolerance for risk, and a deficit of emotional distraction can be mistaken for strength and leadership. For these individuals, the battleground is rarely a dark alley. It is the human mind. Their weapons are not knives and guns, but charm, manipulation, and a profound understanding of human desire and weakness, used to exploit others for personal gain. This is why a simple binary of good versus evil fails us. We are not talking about a moral choice, but a fundamental difference in psychological makeup. In clinical terms, both psychopathy and sociopathy fall under the diagnostic umbrella of antisocial personality disorder, or ASPD. But they are not the same. It's crucial to understand that these traits exist on a spectrum. A person can have psychopathic tendencies without being a full-blown psychopath. Nuance is everything. Let's begin with the primary psychopath, often considered to be born, not made. They are the masters of disguise, wearing what psychiatrist Hervey Cleckley famously called the mask of sanity. On the surface, they are often charming, witty, and disarmingly charismatic. They can climb social and corporate ladders with ease. But behind the mask, there is a profound void. They learn to mimic human emotion with flawless precision, studying the people around them like an actor learning a part. They can cry at a funeral or laugh at a joke, but they do not feel the grief or the joy. They hear the words of the song, but they do not feel its music. This is what clinicians call shallow affect. Their defining feature is a complete lack of empathy. They are constitutionally incapable of putting themselves in someone else's emotional shoes. Because of this, other people are not seen as fellow human beings, but as objects, resources, or pawns on a chessboard. to be moved and sacrificed for their own amusement or advantage. Their actions are cool, calculated, and meticulous. Any offense, from a corporate takeover to a violent crime, is premeditated and ruthlessly goal-driven. Neurobiologically, they are wired differently. When faced with a stressful or frightening situation, a normal person's heart rate and anxiety spike. A psychopath's can actually drop. This gives them their infamous nerves of steel, allowing them to lie, cheat, and harm without a flicker of fear or guilt. They are the ultimate predator in human form, waiting patiently for the perfect moment to strike. This emotional void becomes their greatest weapon, granting them a kind of power without the burdens of conscience, loyalty, or genuine human connection. They wear the mask so well, you may never see the emptiness behind their eyes. The sociopath presents a different picture, shaped more by nurture than nature. Here, the narrative shifts from genetics to the powerful, often brutal, sculpting force of environment. It's a testament to how a person's world can alter who they become. Trauma, neglect, or abuse can forge an antisocial defense. The origins often lie in a childhood where safety is a foreign concept. The developing mind, desperate for protection, begins to build walls. A hostile world teaches, trust is for fools, survival at all costs. Its lessons are cruel. Vulnerability is a death sentence. This isn't a chosen philosophy, it's a learned response etched into their psyche. Behavior becomes a shield hammered by hardship. Every lie and act of aggression is another layer of crude armor meant to keep a dangerous world at bay. Unlike the cool psychopath, the sociopath tends to be impulsive and volatile. Their emotional thermostat is broken, swinging wildly between apathy and explosive rage. They are a storm of poorly regulated feeling. They lash out when cornered or disrespected. It's not strategic cruelty, but a raw, defensive fury. The panicked reaction of someone who has learned that the best defense is a sudden offense. Empathy and guilt may flicker. Not absent, but unstable. These feelings might surface in fleeting moments, only to be quickly extinguished by self-preservation or rage. They can form attachments to a person or group, yet struggle to sustain them. Their inherent volatility and paranoia mean relationships are often intense, tumultuous, and short-lived. Volatility undermines jobs and the facade of normalcy. A steady job is lost after an explosive argument. A friendship is severed over a minor slight. The pattern repeats, making stability impossible. Many live on society's margins, unable to conform. They drift through life, leaving a trail of burned bridges and broken relationships, often feeling like perpetual outsiders. Crimes, when they occur, are messy, disorganized, impulsive. They are rarely planned. Think a robbery on a whim, or an assault from a flash of anger, with little foresight and much evidence left behind. More visible, more easily apprehended, their dysfunction harder to hide. Their dysfunction is loud and chaotic, making them far more visible to law enforcement. They are more likely to cycle in and out of the criminal justice system. They did not learn the social contract, or learned it did not apply. Their life experiences taught them that those rules were a lie, a luxury that did not apply in their fight for survival. Breaking rules became a means to survive. It was a pragmatic tool to assert power in a world that had rendered them powerless. This does not excuse harm, it reveals a different origin story. Accountability is paramount, but it is to recognize a story of damage, not of innate design. Their path is carved by circumstances more than congenital code. This brings us to the foundational split in understanding these two personalities. Let's crystallize the distinction. Nature versus nurture is the foundational split. Psychopathy suggests hardware differences, a brain with a poverty of emotion. Sociopathy is software corruption, a system damaged by a hostile world, resulting in chaotic emotion. One plans patiently, the other reacts impulsively. Psychopaths may treat society as a game board, and succeed within it. They learn the rules only to exploit them for personal gain, often climbing ladders undetected. Sociopaths often feel rejected by society and rebel against it. Their actions are less about winning the game, and more about knocking the board over in an overt, angry confrontation. The psychopath moves like a ghost, unseen and unfelt, a subtle poison. The sociopath, however, collides with the world. They are a blunt force, leaving a visible trail of chaos. One is a hidden danger, the other a manifest crisis. For centuries, we could only observe behavior from the outside. But today, modern neuroscience, with tools like fMRI, lets us peer directly inside the living mind. We can now watch the brain as it thinks and feels, moving beyond speculation. What these tools reveal is striking. Psychopathy and sociopathy aren't just interchangeable labels. They can correspond to fundamentally different neural blueprints, distinct wiring that shapes how a person interacts with the world. In those with strong psychopathic traits, scans often show a chronically underactive amygdala, the brain's alarm system for fear and empathy. Furthermore, the communication channel between this quiet amygdala and the prefrontal cortex, the brain's executive decision-maker, is often weak. It's like driving a car with a broken dashboard. The internal warning lights that signal remorse or danger simply don't turn on. Consequences for oneself and others go unregistered. The neural profile for sociopathy, especially when linked to severe trauma, looks very different. Instead of an underactive system, we may see a brain on high alert. The amygdala can be hyper-reactive, leading to chronic hyper-arousal. This manifests as intense anxiety, explosive aggression, and poor emotional regulation. It's not a lack of feeling, but an overwhelming, unmanageable flood of it. This is where popular culture creates dangerous myths. For drama, Hollywood blends these traits, giving us a charismatic, cold-blooded genius with fits of explosive rage. But psychopathy doesn't confer genius. The charm is a predatory tool, a mask worn to manipulate. And the explosive rage often seen in sociopathy isn't righteous rebellion. It's a signal of profound psychological damage, a nervous system hijacked by trauma. Understanding this distinction is critical for justice and treatment. A calculated psychopath, with a high risk of reoffending, may not benefit from empathy-based therapy. They might just learn to fake it better. In contrast, antisocial behavior from trauma-induced sociopathy may respond well to cognitive behavioral therapy, which teaches the emotional regulation skills they lack. This knowledge is also our protection. Societally, prevention means addressing the root causes of trauma, like abuse and neglect, that can foster sociopathy. Personally, it means knowing how to react. If you recognize the calm, charming but hollow mask of a psychopath, the safest strategy is to disengage completely. With the volatile impulsivity of sociopathy, the goal is to de-escalate conflict and prioritize your safety. Ultimately, these terms describe distinct patterns of human behavior, a tale of coldness versus chaos, of a calculated plan versus a desperate impulse. To protect ourselves and build a more just society, we must look past the caricatures. Understanding these conditions doesn't excuse the harm they cause. Instead, it equips us to move beyond fear and myth, and to respond with the wisdom and strategy that true knowledge provides.